What is going on, guys? This is Modded Warfare here. Welcome back to another PS4 tutorial. So Resident Evil 4 Remake has been out for about 2 weeks now, and already the modding community has been hard at work making some crazy mods for the game, for the PC version of course. You've probably seen some of them on Twitter and on Reddit. But anyway, did you know it's also possible to convert some of these mods to work on the PS4 version, as all the footage that you're seeing here in this video right now is all being captured on my jailbroken PS4 on a 9.00 system, and thanks to GoldHEN's AFR plugin, we do not need to create modded game updates in order to do this anymore. So converting Resident Evil mods specifically from the PC version to the PS4 version has been made possible thanks to Kernel Panic on Twitter, also known as Backporter on GitHub, who has created some conversion tools to allow you to convert the textures from the PC version over to the PS4 version. And in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to set up his converting tools and how to actually get these mods converted to run on your PS4. So let's go ahead and dive into it, because it is quite a bit involved. We do have to go over quite a few things here to get this going. So let's start off right here on the PS4. So obviously you need to make sure you have a fake package version of the game installed. In this case, I've got Resident Evil 4 Remake, and we're on update version 1.02. And you should be able to do this on the base version of the game or future game updates as well. So the version of the game that you're on shouldn't really matter too much. So next, we need to make sure we're running GoldHEN, of course. So head on to your exploit page, whichever one you're using, like KME PS4.site, and run the GoldHEN payload to jailbreak your PS4. Once you've got your PS4 jailbroken, we're going to head into the GoldHEN settings. You're going to want to make sure under server settings that you have the FTP server enabled. So make sure that box is checked, and note down the IP address and port number that show up in the top left-hand corner. Of course, you need to make sure that your PS4 is connected to the network in order for that to pop up. So then we're also going to go into plugin settings and turn the enable plugins loader on. And then we also want to head to the cheat settings and go down to show title ID labels. And you can turn this on for either title ID or title ID and app version. One of those two options, so that you can get the title ID of the game. In my case, it's CUSA 33388. Okay, so once you've got all of that information noted down, we can go ahead and switch over to the computer to get all of the PC files that we're going to need for this. So first, we need to go to the GoldHEN plugins repository from Illusion. I'll leave all the download links in the video description. We're just going to head here and download the GoldHEN plugins.zip file. We're also going to need the Resident Evil 4 RE text, which is the texture converter by Backporter, aka Kernel Panic. So you can download it right here. You can download just the exe or the 7-zip or the zip file. Download one of those. And then we're also going to need the repack program as well, also by Backporter, aka Kernel Panic. And this will allow us to actually turn our files into a pack file that the game can recognize and load. So we need to make sure we download this as well. Just download the latest version here. Again, all download links will be in the video description. And you're also going to need some required files for the converters to work, which I'll also provide in the video description. So next, you're going to need some mods. Now, you can get these obviously from nexusmods.com. I probably won't leave it linked in the description just because YouTube's updated their policy about external links, and there can be a bit funny about that kind of stuff, especially since the mods on there, a lot of them are NSFW mods, so you'll just have to find it yourself. But you know, it's Nexus Mods. It's the same place you go to download PC mods for Skyrim and Fallout and all of that kind of stuff. You can also find the mods there for Resident Evil 4 Remake. So as you can see here, we've got a mod for changing the knife, the combat knife for the CSGO butterfly knife. We also have a sniper rifle from CSGO that replaces the normal sniper rifle. We also have Joel Miller, so it swaps out Leon for Joel from The Last of Us. So I'll go ahead and install that as well. We also have a retexture for the shotgun. And we also have Shrek, which basically replaces the chainsaw guy with Shrek instead. And also we have Zeebo enemies, which changes the enemies for like a kind of blue skin, changes the texture on the enemies. So we're going to go ahead and install all of these. So first of all, we're going to create a new folder called Converter. Again, you can call it whatever you want. And then we're going to extract everything into this folder. So first of all, we've got the repack. So we need to extract repack into the converter folder. Then we're also going to need the retext, which is the texture converter. So we're going to copy that also into the converter folder. Then also we need the required files. So we're going to copy this data folder also into the converter as well, so that we have everything copied over and it is all set up and ready to go. Next, we need to install the GoldHEN plugins to get the AFR plugin up and running. We're going to use FTP for this because it will be quicker. You can do this within Windows, or you can download a external client like FileZilla or WinSCP. I'm just going to use FileZilla here. I'll leave it linked in the description. So what we're going to do is type in the IP address of our PS4 into the host box. The port number is 2121. We're going to quick connect to connect us to our PS4 over the network. And then we're going to go into the data folder on our hard drive. And then we're going to go to the GoldHEN folder. And this is where we're going to install the GoldHEN plugins. So we're going to open up the GoldHEN plugins folder. We'll extract the plugins folder and the plugins.ini file over to our computer, just like this. So if we open up the plugins.ini file, we're going to want to move the AFR plugin if it's in the CUSA section. We're going to move that, so Control X to cut it out of that location, and then paste it into the default section. So you want the AFR plugin to be loaded under default so that it will be loaded for every game that you try to run. But obviously, if you don't have any files to replace on those other games, it shouldn't affect anything. So we can go ahead and save it right there, and then we should be good. So we can now copy the plugins.ini file into the GoldHEN folder, and then also copy the plugins folder into the GoldHEN folder as well. For some reason, mine always gets stuck on this AIO fix, but we don't need that. So I'm just going to stop and remove all. If you do get stuck on any files, you can just add them back in manually. So for example, if I wanted to copy that over, I could just do it one by one. But you want to make sure that you have the afr.prx file in the plugins folder, and then you are good. So we now have the GoldHEN plugins set up and ready. So next we need to create a new folder in the GoldHEN folder called AFR in uppercase characters. And then inside that folder, we create another folder with the title ID of the game. That's why I showed title ID labels earlier in the video. So you can see the title ID over Resident Evil is CUSA 333388 in my case for this specific version that I have. So check to see what title ID version yours is, and then create a directory in the AFR folder with that same name. In my case, that's CUSA 33388. And then if we go into this folder, this is where we're going to put our converted mods. Okay, so now that we have all of that set up, we can delete these plugins off the desktop, and we are all good. Okay, so now we're finally at the point where we can start converting some of these mods. So what we want to do is open up the converter folder, and then we're going to open up the mods folder. So what we want to do here is extract all of the mods to this folder, to our converter folder. So we're going to start off with the butterfly knife. So in here, we've got the natives folder. This is the folder you want to extract into the converter. So we're going to extract the natives folder. Then we're going to go into this dragon lore and extract this natives folder into the same place. And let that move everything over. Then we're going to do the same with the Joel Miller mod. Copy that over. There we go. And then we'll do the same with the Winchester texture replacement. We'll copy that over. Okay, so now we get into two mods that might conflict with each other. We have the Shrek mod and the Zeebo enemies. Now, the Shrek mod is specifically for Salvador, the chainsaw guy. It will just replace him, I believe. And the Zeebo enemies replaces like all the generic enemies, but it may also replace the chainsaw guy as well. So if we have two mods that are replacing the chainsaw guy, then in this case, we want to install the Zeebo enemies one first, because it's going to replace the other enemies in the game, and then do the Shrek one on top of it so that it replaces Salvador with Shrek. That way, that one will be replaced, and we'll still have the Zeebo enemies for the other enemies in the game. So in this case, we're going to install the Zeebo enemies one first. So I'll copy the natives folder in, and it'll go ahead and do all of that. And then we're going to take the Shrek mod and then copy its natives in there as well. And then there we go. You can see we have two files with the same name. That'll be overwriting the one for the Zeebo enemies, but just for that particular enemy. So we'll replace files in destination in this case. But that's something you need to watch out for, of course. If you have two mods that replaces the same texture in game, then you're going to get conflicts. One's going to overwrite the other. So just be aware of that. Preferably, you want mods that are not going to conflict with each other. So if you can install all of your mods without getting a message that says, hey, we need to replace files, then you're good. None of the files should conflict with each other in that case. All right, so we've got everything copied over there into the natives folder. So next we're going to go into the natives folder here, and we're going to rename this STM folder to PS4. Okay, so now we need to actually convert the texture files. So we're going to do this by running ps4 retext.exe. So we're going to run this, and it says working. Okay, now we've run into a problem here. You can see it says combat knife albd.text.tga, and it's run into an error. You want to close it if you do run into any errors like that. What you need to do is make sure you get rid of any TGA files. So if you search in the natives directory for .tga, and then you'll see right here any TGA files that it finds, and then just delete them, because the texture converter can't handle these TGA files. They're not really required as far as I'm aware. So you can just go ahead and get rid of those. Okay, so now we'll run retech again. You can see there it says it's working, and it's now converting all of the files over. And there we go, it's now done. Okay, so now if we go into the PS4 folder, we're going to copy this chainsaw folder, and then we're going to create a new folder next to it called streaming. And we're going to paste the chainsaw folder into the streaming folder. Now, the reason why we're doing this is because the mod authors for most of the PC mods do not include streaming assets, which I guess is probably because it doesn't really get used much on the PC version because they're higher resolution and everything, and I guess that's the reason. But on the PS4, of course, it typically switches to kind of like lower detail models or lower detail texture versions of the assets at certain points when things get demanding, and that happens a lot. So it keeps switching between the kind of high quality assets and the low quality assets all the time. And of course, if you don't have things added to the streaming folder, then when it switches, you'll lose the texture of your mod. Whereas if you have a duplicate of the texture replacements, the modded textures in the streaming folder, then even when it switches, it's still switching to the same texture. So that way the texture should stay consistent the whole time. So again, thanks to Kernel Panic for that information. So anyway, all we're going to do here now that we've got all of our mods converted is we're going to pack them into a pack file. Now, in order to do this, we need to download the pack files for the actual game itself. Now, we can do this by going back onto the console and running the game. So we're going to run Resident Evil 4 Remake right here. So once you get to this point, we're going to hit the PS button. We're not going to close the game, and we're just going to go back onto FTP on our computer. So here we are here back on FTP. And what we're going to do is we're going to head back to the root directory, which is just the / directory. And then we're going to go to the MNT folder, which is the mount folder, and then the sandbox directory, then the PFS MNT folder, and then the app0, which is the currently running game, which is Resident Evil 4 Remake. We're going to go into the app0 directory, and in here you'll find two files, rechunk000.pack and rechunk001.pack. What you want to do is copy these two files out to your computer. Now, this might take a long time to transfer because the transfer speeds are going to be reduced because the game is currently running. So the speed's not going to be quite as fast as perhaps you would like, especially if you're transferring this over wireless. So you could use the items flow game manager to copy these files over to a USB drive instead, which might be faster to transfer than doing it over FTP. But obviously I'm using a wired connection from my PS4 to my computer, so the speed isn't too bad. But if you're on wireless, you might want to reconsider and use the items flow homebrew manager to copy these files from the sandbox directory over to a USB, and then from the USB back to your computer. Okay, so once you've got those copied over to your computer right here, we're then just going to move those into the converter folder as well. Okay, so now we're ready to build our pack files here. So what we're going to do is open up the repack.exe in the converter. It's going to ask you what game you want to select. I don't think this really matters for actually creating pack files. I think this is more for opening pack files or something like that. So I typically just select Resident Evil 3 Remake because Resident Evil 4 Remake's not on here. So I'm just going to select that option. It seems to work fine. So we're then going to go to File and then go to the Pack Creator and then Open/Save. And of course, you want to navigate to the converter folder to where your rechunk000.pack and 001.pack file is. Highlight them and then click Open and then click Create. So it will then use these pack files as a base to then create these patch pack files, which include our modded textures. So we're just going to wait for that to complete. Should only take a few seconds. Okay, and there we go. It is finished. We can click OK. We can close out of this. And now all we need to do is add these pack files to our AFR folder for GoldHEN. So GoldHEN will swap out the files using the AFR plugin. So back on FTP once more. We're going to head back here to the root directory once again. And then we're going to go to our data folder. We're going to go to our GoldHEN folder, our AFR folder, our CUSA 33388, or whatever title ID of the game you have. We're going to go into that folder and copy these files in. So our patch1.pack and our patch2.pack. And if you have the base version of the game, then that is all you have to do. So if you have the base version installed, just 1.00, that's all you have to do. You should be able to run the game and you'll have your mods. However, if you have a game update installed, like I do, I have version 1.02 installed, then there will already be a 001.pack and a 002.pack file from the game update. So we will have to rename this to a number that's not already being used by the game. So in order to do this, again, we're just going to go back to our sandbox directory, which is in our mount folder, our MNT, sandbox, PFS MNT. And then we're going to go into patch 0 this time, the patch 0 folder. We're going to go in here, and you can see there's already a rechunk 000 and 001.pack, 002.pack. So there's already a 001 and 002 in this game update. So all we need to do is rename ours to the next number up. So instead of 001 and 002, I'm going to rename mine to 003 and 004. That's all you have to do. So pretty simple, really, when you think about it. So if we just go back to our root directory, we go into data, GoldHEN, AFR, and then we're going to rename this pack file from 001 to 003, and this 002 folder we'll rename to 004. That way they're not going to conflict with the existing pack files that are being loaded for the game update. Because of course you don't want the pack files for a game update to be swapped out by your modded pack files, because then that's going to cause a whole load of problems. So what you want is for them to be separate, so that it will still load the pack files for the game update, and then it will load the pack files for your mods. That's what we want right there. So that's it. We are good. We should be good to go here. So if we switch back over once again to our PS4, just once again, make sure the plugins loader is enabled. It's blanked out right now because I'm running the game. I'm going to have to close out of the game. Whenever you add mods, you are obviously going to have to close the game and reopen the game in order for that to work. And then, of course, we can just go ahead and run the game right here. And hopefully we'll have our mods showing up in game here. Okay, so we're going to go to main story. I'm going to continue with my current save file. Now, one of the things that you'll notice here particularly is the loading bar. Okay, so the loading bar is going. That's a good sign. So a couple of issues you can run into here. If it crashes during the loading, when you're loading a save file here, and you get like a CE-34 error or something like that, that's usually because there's some textures that have not been converted. So you'll have to make sure, go back and do it again with the textures, because perhaps you didn't convert them right, or it's not recognizing the data folder with the files in it that are required for the retexture application to work. So you need to make sure that's working, because typically if you get that error, that's normally a good sign that it's the fact that one of the textures is still set to the PC version instead of the PS4 version, and that's why it's crashing. Another issue you can get is when the loading bar just doesn't move at all. And that's usually because there might be some custom animations or some other files that it doesn't like, that unfortunately we don't have any converters at the moment to make those work on the PS4 version. So there'll probably have to be more development there to get that stuff working. It's mostly just retexture stuff that works right now. So anyway, as you can see here, we are in the game. We have our modded sniper rifle here. We also have our modified shotgun. And you can see we're also playing as Joel from The Last of Us as well. As you can see right there, we have the Joel model from The Last of Us. You can see we also have our butterfly knife, and yeah, we'll go ahead and equip the sniper rifle here. And as you can see, that is indeed working. And we also have our Zebo enemies as well. If we hop down here and we take a look at some of the enemies, you can see we have our blue enemies showing up here as well. And this is all indeed working on a PlayStation 4, as you can see right here. Okay, so here's a closer look with photo mode as well. You can see the weapon there. Texture is loading. The texture's not disappearing either. Got our custom texture on our shotgun. And of course, our Joel character model as well is working pretty well. And of course, the Shrek mod, I'll switch back to a scene from earlier in the game here where you can see that mod also has been applied successfully as well. So now that you have those mods as pack files in the AFR folder, whenever you want to add new mods, you can just clear the natives folder that's currently in your converter and then start adding your new mods. And then you can turn those into pack files as well and just add those pack files in addition to the existing ones that you already have installed. So you can keep adding more and more pack files to add more mods without having to delete your old mods. And plus, you don't want to be running the texture converter over and over again on the same files when you're adding new mods. Then you may be potentially running the converter on some of the files that are already in the PS4 format, and then that's going to degrade the quality of the texture, which you don't want happening either. So just a few things to note there in addition. Anyway, still pretty cool stuff, guys. You can actually have custom textures, custom model replacements and stuff on the game for the PS4 version. And the PS4 version has quite a lot of options now because, of course, you also have the GoldHEN cheats that you can also apply when you hold down the share button. I've already covered that in a previous video that I'll link in the video description and in the cards in the top right hand corner if you want to check that out. And we also have Illusion, who's working on frame rate fixes for the game as well, which might already be available by the time this video goes out, which may be things like, you know, unlocked frame rates, lower the resolution to increase the frame rate, so you can get a smoother experience, maybe some frame time fixes, that kind of thing, which can be applied via the patch plugin in GoldHEN with the GoldHEN Cheats Manager, or with the Items Flow Homebrew app by Lightning Mods, could be used to apply those patches. So we've got PC mods that we can run on the PS4 version. We've got frame rate fixes and, you know, unlocked frame rates and stuff that we can do on the PS4 version as well. And also, of course, game cheats, GoldHEN cheats available as well for the game. Pretty much everything that you could want there for modding Resident Evil on your PS4. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one.